Welcome everybody to the third installment of CrewChief tutorial. They say third time's the charm. Let's hope that everything works correctly this time with the recording and my microphone as I go through the CrewChief tutorial that I ran yesterday after the Academy workshops. The main reason for this tutorial is one, I think CrewChief is a very, very powerful program that a lot of people don't utilize the full power of it. Me personally, I use voice control, so I can actually take use of a lot more power of CrewChief. But for those that are having issues or don't have the voice control working or don't want the voice control, this is a good way to set up your CrewChief to manage your pit stops, manage your fuel, manage the information, track other drivers. There is so much you can do here. So I'm going to try and do this a little bit quicker. As I said, this is the third time, so a lot of drivers were in and asking questions in the first session, and unfortunately, I gotta kind of do what I can here because a lot of drivers just timing doesn't allow you to be in the auditorium for this kind of session. So to start off, if you're new to CrewChief, we're going to go through some of the quick basics here as to when you first launch CrewChief. So up here is your main dialog, which is where you start CrewChief, set up the speakers or headphones or wherever CrewChief gives information. The volume of CrewChief, so you can turn them up, turn them down. The background volume, I mentioned this to other drivers. It's more just static and noise in the background when the CrewChief is talking, similar to if they were on a real radio, all the background noise that would be behind them. I don't use this. I find it basically useless, so I just turn it down, but it's your own personal preference. Next, we have our console. Now, in the properties, you can turn console logging off, which unless you're like me and you want to see what's going on or you're doing some debugging, you can do this because you really don't need that information. And not that CrewChief uses a lot of CPU, but it just frees up resources. So, it's not that useful to most people. The actual power of CrewChief is down here in the actions. So when you first use CrewChief, or you launch it for the first time, you launch it for the first time, this is where you set up all of your controls, your button presses, what commands you want to go to CrewChief. Now, if you've just installed CrewChief, one of the main things you can see here, I don't have any available controllers. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to scan for your controllers. Now, what CrewChief is going to do is it's going to find any controllers that you currently have on your system. So you can see I've got my Thrustmaster wheelbase, I've got my Xbox controller it's detecting, I've got my keyboard, and it has my Logitech G27 shifter. So I have a lot of buttons that I can map. I have a lot of different ways that I can send commands to CrewChief. And then over here in the inside actions, these are just a few of some of the more prominent or used actions within CrewChief that they give you to start. But CrewChief can do a lot more than this. As I said, this video is more about using button mappings. You can set up CrewChief for voice. There are a couple older videos, but everything still is valid on my YouTube channel for setting up CrewChief voice. And just to give you an example, so for me, if this was a new install, I'd come over here, choose on my steering wheel that I want to assign a button to talk to CrewChief. Now, it's pretty simple. Assign the control. It'll wait for the button click so I can press a button on my steering wheel. And there I go. I now have everything. Now, the one thing that I do is the first thing I will do within CrewChief is I will create profiles. Now, this is because I actually have two wheel rims. I have an SF1000 and I have the standard wheel rim that came with the Thrustmaster. And the button mappings and locations and the number of buttons are different. So I can load a profile depending on which wheel rim I currently have on my Thrustmaster. So if you come into properties, you can see here profiles. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is, if you're currently running CrewChief and you have it set up the way you want it, what you want to do is you want to copy the settings from the current profile that you are using, and then you want to activate the new profile and restart. Once you've clicked these, click on Create a Profile and give your profile a name. So you can see here I've got Almeida Racing SF1000 rim, Almeida Racing Standard rim. So this allows me to map based on the rim that I currently have on my base. Once you click Save, CrewChief will restart and bring you up within that new profile, where now we can get into editing and starting to release some of the power of CrewChief. Now, what a lot of people are not aware of is this, or maybe never even click on, is this button down here under Assigned Actions, which is Add Remove Actions. Right? So when you click on this, what this is going to do is this is going to bring up all of the available actions that are available with CrewChief. And you can see current available, which is over in this list here. And there is a lot more actions that can be done with CrewChief over here. Be it whether, and you can see CrewChief does support VR. It can handle your pit stops. So what I normally do when I create a new profile, or I change a profile with my rim, or maybe I buy a new rim, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove everything out of here, because I don't want to be sifting through to find what I want. So I'm simply going to click the top one here, scroll down, hold my shift key, click the bottom, and move them all out of there. Now, you can see here I did map a button for my Talk to CrewChief. So if I save the profile settings and restart, CrewChief will relaunch, and you can see now that Assigned Actions is empty. If I go back to Add Remove Actions, if I click here, I know the command is Talk to CrewChief. I can press the T button, and the first one it sees is Talk to CrewChief. I can move it over to Available Actions, save profile settings, and restart. And you can see CrewChief maintained the mapping. I don't have to go and remap it because I removed it out of here. It allows me to maintain it. Now again, because I use voice, this is pretty much all I use, but there are times where CrewChief maybe doesn't understand me, maybe doesn't really respond to my voice commands. So I want to have a backup button press to issue the commands that I want. And some of the more primary commands, which are for pit stops and fuel strategy, are available here for you to map a button to. Now, a lot of this came about from Saturday's race within the league. Because we did have a pit stop during the endurance race, a lot of drivers were, how do I clear my, how do I clear my back box? How do I get my fuel? So if you click here and press P, you can see here now, these are all of the pit stop actions that you can assign and map a button to for CrewChief. So the first and foremost one that I always use, even though I have edited my INI that none of my pit options are enabled, is pit stop clear all. So now I can map a button so that when I get out on track, there's nothing enabled in my pit stop. If I go around and I come into the pits and I stop, it's not going to change my tires. It's not going to give me a fast repair. It's not going to fuel the car. It's not going to do anything. Now, the main use for this one for me is if I'm in an endurance race or if I'm in a race and I've already told CrewChief that I want to change my tires, or I've already set my fuel load, and I get a penalty and say maybe I get a 10-second stop and hold, I can come in and do my stop and hold, and I can clear my pit stop so that all I do is my stop and hold. I don't take any service. So this minimizes the amount of time I'm in the pit stop. The other main one is the pit stop fast repair. So there was an incident in Saturday's race where one of the drivers had an incident. He wanted to use his fast repair, but for some reason, iRacing will not allow you to select the fast repair once you're in the pit. You must select it before you actually get into your pit stall. If you don't, it won't work. You'd actually have to go all the way around the track again, come back into the pits for the pit stop for your fast repair. So now I will move that over there as well. So now when I have an incident and I go, okay, I want my new car because a fast repair is available, as I'm towing or as I'm driving around to get back in the pits, I can click a button and I know that when I get into my stall, it's going to do the fast repair on my car. So to continue with the pit commands, so the other ones that I have is I will set to change all of my tires. Now, CrewChief also has the ability to calculate your fuel. Now, the settings for all of this are within properties, and I will get into that shortly when I get into the properties section. But there is the option here for pit stop fuel to the end. Now, utilizing the settings that are currently within the property settings, CrewChief will add enough fuel in my car to get me to the end of the race for whatever I've defined, whether I want an extra, I want 10 liters in the car when I cross the finish line. I want 1 liter in the car when I cross the finish line. CrewChief will calculate all this and it will do it for me based on all of the laps I've run before the pits to the point where I say calculate my fuel. I generally say calculate my fuel. Sorry about that. I generally say calculate my fuel as I'm entering my pit stall so that my fuel numbers are as tight as they can possibly be and get me out of the pit stall as quickly as possible. CrewChief also has the ability to change you to your wet tires. Now there are two different options here. There is next tire compound. If I go one more, there it is, wet tires. So there is next tire compound and there is pit stop wet tires. Generally, you're going to have slicks and wets. So you could use the next tire compound, but if you're running Formula One or Indy, you also have soft, mediums, and wet. So this just allows you to select whichever one you want. If you're in a Formula One car or an Indy car and you want to put your wets on, you can put your wet tires on. Now I could sit here and go through all of these settings for a very long time, but I'm not going to do that. I recommend coming through here, reading through, seeing what they are and go, hey, wonder what it will give me if I click on this. And you can always move it over, map a button to it, and go out on track, do some laps, and see what it gives you. So now I'm going to save the profile settings. CrewChief will now relaunch, and you can see here that all of the ones that I have selected are now here. So I can choose, so if I want to fuel to the end of the race, I can assign a control from one of the buttons on my G27. Now when I press that button, if the voice hasn't responded, it will still do the command that I want it to do. Now we come into the properties. And when you first come into the properties for CrewChief, it can be so overwhelming. because the amount of settings that you can do here, there are so many. You can, and a lot of it is timing, how often it tells you, gives you reports during the race. Again, your spotter. Now, again, CrewChief has done a really, really good job of telling you what individual commands will do. So at any time, if you roll your mouse over top, you will get a small dialog that gives you a brief explanation of what this is going to do for you. So if I go down here and say, okay, what does limit available games do? Well, it's going to select the games that I use. Now, there was a question in chat, or there was something in chat where somebody had said, oh, well, iRacing has done such a good improvement on their CrewChief and on their spotter. And that's great. But the thing is CrewChief is so much more adaptable. As you can see here, CrewChief works with Assetto Corsa. It works with AMS. It works with F1. It works with good old Project Cars. It works with Race Room. Now, for me, you can double click to turn them off. For me, I generally turn everything off except for the sims that I use. And no, I haven't run Assetto Corsa for quite some time. I'm pretty much mostly iRacing. But it also does now currently support the new LMU as well. So I do leave that one on, even though I am not currently running LMU. Or Le Mans Ultimate, which is, in case you're not aware of what LMU is. So I can turn all of these off, and it just makes selection of your game easier over here in the game. Now, another thing they've added recently is bad reputations. So in iRacing, you are assigned a flag based on your location or whatever you've chosen as your flag. And for some reason, CrewChief just puts all the flags in here. So basically anybody you come up upon with this flag, you may hear, oh, they've got a bad reputation. This driver's sketchy. Be careful. So the first thing I do is I clear this. I don't care what flag you're running. That's definitely not your rep. That's definitely not your rep as to how well you drive. Another one they have is the iRacing reputation. And you can see every time I scroll over, it pops up and says drivers that have an I rating less than this value will be flagged as sketchy. Separate values for road and oval can be provided by separating with a comma. So for iRacing, I can say any road course driver that has an I rating under 1,000, let me know that they've got an I rating under 1,000. They may be a sketchy driver, but they just may be somebody that doesn't run a lot of iRacing official sessions, and they've just got a low I rating. But then I can go here and I can say for ovals, tell me drivers that are under 500. Tell me they're sketchy. So that when I'm on an oval and that driver's reputation is under 500, I know they're a sketchy driver. Or I can get the information that they may be a sketchy driver. I should be careful. And you can see just all of the settings that are in here. There are so many. It is very, very overwhelming. Now, CrewChief has tried to help you there with a category filter. So if you want to set up your VR, for example, there are CrewChief VR overlays. There are enable your VR when the application starts. For me, I don't run VR, I run triples, so I simply turn all these off. If it's not needed, my rule of thumb is you don't need it, turn it off. The other thing you can do is you can go to show settings that are not from the default installation. So you can see here what I've already changed that does not coincide with the default settings. Use American terms, you use Fahrenheit, you use sweary words. That one is always fun. because he can get pretty nasty with you. Now, the thing to remember is if you show non-default, anytime you click these or you do a search, it will search based on what you have the category filter set at. So if I set the category filter, say here at fuel temperatures and damage, and I say show me spotter info, it's not going to show me anything because there is nothing with regards to a spotter within this category. If I go to the spotter, there are all of my spotter information. Now, again, it was mentioned that iRacing is doing a much better job with the spotter. They're doing a much better job with CrewChief, or sorry, with their spotter and their CrewChief. But you can be so much tighter with your spotter by using CrewChief. So one of the settings is the max closing speed. So if another car is coming up on me and they're doing 12, I haven't determined whether this is kilometers per mile per hour or if it's based on whatever you have set, and they're coming up at me 12, let's say kilometers for now, faster than what I'm doing, it's probably going to tell me to hold my line before they even get to the point where they're beside me. And that's because of their closing speed. There is the spotter overlap delay. So as soon as somebody is beside me for 50 milliseconds, so half a second, my spotter is going to call me and tell me to hold my line. I actually set this to 25 milliseconds because I want to know immediately. I want to know as soon as they are like near my rear bumper. You can even set this lower to say even like 15 milliseconds. So as soon as they are at your rear bumper, your spotter is going to pop up and say, hold your line. How long will the spotter say, how long before the spotter says clear? Right now it's 1.5 seconds because it's an integer. I generally set this again to 25. This is something you play with based on how you drive and how you use your mirrors. If you use your mirrors, are you on triples? Are you on VR? Are you on single screen? It takes some tweaking based on your own personal driving style. Now, if I go back to all categories, a new one has shown up here, I believe, is the spotter gap for clear. So this works this coincides with spotter clear today. So spotter gap for clear. My spotter will not tell me that I am clear until I am until they are half a meter or I am half a meter past the nose of their car. I generally set this to 2.25. So, that's pretty tight. That's a quarter of a meter past that I've passed them. There's a quarter of a meter between me and them before my spotter will say, hey, you're clear. You can move. You can dive in front of them, or they're past you, you can tuck in behind them. And again, this is one of the reasons that I wanted to do this tutorial. Hello, Isabel. Is because a lot of people don't understand the power that is actually behind CrewChief and how much you can really do with it. And I mean, it's taken me a long time to go through, and I mean, like, there are so many options, and to sit there and go through and go, okay, what does this one do? What does this one do? I've been doing this for a while, so I know what a lot of these do. So I use the console, but I don't need the spotter log, so I turn that off. So anything with log, generally I will turn off. And as you can see, anything that comes into my brain that I say, hey, I wonder if there's a setting for this, it will bring it up and it will show me. So I have console logging enabled. I don't want the sound logged. I don't want exceptions, or I do want exceptions logged. I don't need my fuel logged. Okay. Basically anything that you log is going to very minimally chew up some CPU time. If I go into the audio and voice controllers, you can see if I have log, there's only one that comes in there. But if I remove the search, now this is all of the stuff that is available for somebody that is using voice control and the controllers. And there's, again, it can be very, very overwhelming as to what everything does and how it will work with your system. I said in the previous sessions before recording this one, don't be afraid to create a profile and just play around with it. Go out and run an AI race, go out and run some laps, go out and run some practice sessions, change some settings, and bring CrewChief to what you want it to do. So as I said, the biggest ones is the spotter, and the other one is the fuel. So as I mentioned, iRacing does have auto fuel, but keep in mind, CrewChief is not dedicated to iRacing. CrewChief works on all of these games. All of these games. It will work for you. So in my fuel, CrewChief actually allows you to set up how much extra fuel is added into the car during a pit stop. Not just, oh, well, give me 0.1 laps more. You can say, give me 1.1 or 0.5 laps for a long track, short track, medium tracks. And as I said, you put the bubble over, you can see 1.5 to 6.2 mile track. It's going to give me 1 extra lap of fuel. Generally, I set this probably to about 0.3 because I just want enough fuel to get across the line. But CrewChief also has the ability to have a setting for tight fuel, where it will take these numbers, whatever numbers are currently in here, and it will recalculate them for you so that your fuel is very, very tight when you come to the end of the race. It will shorten your pit stall time. And like I said, I could spend way more than 30 minutes to an hour going through CrewChief and all of the functionality that you can activate and deactivate and utilize. Because as you can see here, just fuel, temperatures, and damage, there are so many different options. The legacy options, I will say, ignore those. Basically, this is the programmer's way of saying, this is how it used to be. We're going to go back. This is how it is now. So this will eventually disappear in some future update. The other one I like to do is report fuel as laps in timed races. I want to know how many more laps of fuel I have. It can vary depending on what kind of timed race I'm doing, whether it's an endurance or just a 45-minute sprint. But if it's a full endurance, a lot of times I will tick this off. And again, I may have another profile for that. CrewChief also has the ability to check your pit time. So if you want to know how long you're going to be in the pits and you enter the pits in second and you want to come out, you want to know where you're going to come out of the pits after your stop, CrewChief will calculate that as well. It is another setting that can be turned on. Message frequencies, again, is another one. So report all laps when hot lapping lone practice. I don't need you telling me my lap times when I'm hot lapping. I'm hot lapping. I don't need to know my lap times. I probably got my delta bar turned on. And again, if you're not sure what it does and you roll the mouse over top, it will tell you and give you a brief explanation of what changing this setting will do for your spotter, what changing this setting will do for the frequency of information that you receive. Now, I apologize as this one is not quite as good or inclusive as the originals that I did, but I did have interaction there, so it did help me a little bit. So one of the other things that I have heard complaints about with CrewChief, which you can do with a button map. No, I want to say, yeah, I want to save the changes and restart. There we go. So now all of the changes that I have made, I can now go show non-default. These are all the changes I've made while making this video. It will keep track of these at all times. So I can come in here and go, okay, the spotter overlap delay is too short, and I can add it. So that you don't have to sit and go and sift through and say, okay, where is that setting? Simply show the non-default, and you can change that setting on the fly. So if I change this, let's just bring this back up to 20, and just always make sure you save your changes. Okay. Now, the other one I was getting to was in add remove actions for your crew chief in the reports. So if you click here somewhere and you press R, report car damage, report status, that doesn't always work. I think that's just a current, limitation. Another one that you can do is where is it? Is you can basically tell crew chief to shut up. Have him stop talking to you. Have him not talking to you in court. You know, you're in the middle of a battle. You don't need your crew chief in your ear. So you can actually go and toggle. I'm sorry, that's what it was. It was toggle. So toggle race updates on and off. So I'm going to add that one here. So what this will do is this will silence your crew chief. So he'll stop talking to you. He's just going to be quiet. He may give you cut track warnings. He may give you incident warnings, but he's going to stop blabbering at you. Even the sweary messages and all of that, he's going to stop doing it because you've basically said to him, shut the hell up, let me drive the car. Additionally, there are settings in the properties as to how often, which is in your message frequencies, I believe. Let me just bring up something here really quick. Let me see if I can find it. All categories. Trying to remember what the command was. Bear with me, bear with me. What was the command? Let's go into our frequencies and I can probably find it. Message frequencies. Oh, actually, I believe it was in delay. So if I go, you can see nothing shows up, but if I go to all categories, now I have that. So delay messages on hard parts. So if I'm in a track I'm coming up to a chicane, the crew chief probably will not talk to me. It will delay, and you can see only immediate and important messages are going to come across. Save profile settings and exit. And there you have it. That's just a brief look at some of the power that crew chief has. I was speaking in the other sessions that I may do another session like this with regards and to focus on issuing voice commands, which is something that is probably more beneficial. I mean, it's beneficial for everybody, but I think it would be more beneficial for somebody who, say, is running in VR, where you can't look at your wheel and push a button, or you can't look over to your right and push a button on your Stream Deck or on another control. Having the ability to push a button and say, clear my pit stall in VR, it's done. You know, push a button, change my tires. Your tires are changed. Push a button, fast repair, changed. You don't have to map multiple buttons. If there's enough interest in it, I will do that video. I will do that here in the auditorium. But again, that's all going to depend on how this goes and if everyone or a number of people really enjoy starting to use CrewChief and unlocking the real power of this additional software to run with any simulator, not just iRacing. So in closing, I will apologize again that this one probably is not as in-depth as I did get after the workshops on Monday. It's hard to move along when I'm trying to explain things just on my own. As I said, I could go on for hours and I choose not to. Interaction helps a lot, but I hope this helps anybody. And by all means, if you're interested in more information, or if somebody wants me to do an interactive, or if there is another interest for another interactive version like this in the auditorium that people will want to join and ask questions and give input while we're going through everything, by all means, don't be afraid to ping me in Discord and let me know your interest, and we'll see if we can't do that again. So I hope this has helped anybody that's struggling with CrewChief. Maybe it's changed your mind about CrewChief a little bit. But again, I think it's for me, I think it's way better than anything iRacing has. And the fact that I can jump into any simulator and still use this software is a huge bonus to me. So thank you very much for your time. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time.